Go live. I'm clicking it. So it says going live and you are live. I'll post the okay, perfect. There's always a
Go live.
delay.
I'm clicking it.
So it says going live and
Okay.
you are live. I'll post the okay, perfect.
Hello, hello. Can everybody hear me? Can y'all hear me? Can y'all see? Everything seemed to be working. I haven't done a stream for a while, so just want to make sure that we're all up and running. Loud and clear, cool. And actually, Celia, do you want to say hi? And it's possible that I have actually routed my Discord through.
Let's find out. Can anyone hear the secret Celia?
Because if y'all can hear Celia too, that would be pretty cool.
Whoa.
Oh, okay.
The Sandy and Celia stream. Whoa.
Yeah, and then anyone else in the team is welcome to join Discord if they want, assuming that you all can hear anyone but me.
Oh, I'm audible.
Oh, you are?
If someone said the secret is audible.
Okay,
oh, yeah,
cool. Great. Wow, even better. Secret
Wow.
Celia.
So sneaky.
Way more fun that way. Okay. So we're just waiting for everyone to kind of trickle in here. And I know we have a few questions front loaded, so maybe I'll try and answer a couple of those while we give it just a couple of minutes. And yeah, Bridget or anyone else who's here, welcome to join Discord if you want. Up to you. Okay, so Dr. Blue asked, I think that was the first question, where does one get started in the field of making sprite art and animating? So yeah, concepts and basics to bone up on, less so specific tooling. Yeah, so whenever people ask this, I do start by saying that software does not matter. So whether you're using a sprite or graphic scale or promotion, which is what we use at Yacht Club, I would say you're good to go because you're using proprietary pixel art software, and that'll make it the whole process very streamlined. I would recommend those over something like Photoshop, which is maybe a little more cumbersome because it's not made specifically for pixel art and animation, even though you can do both to good effect. But as far as getting started, my recommendation would be to use reference and draw what you know or what you want your art to look like, I guess, is another way of putting it. So, for example, if you're really into Mega Man, right, like the Shovel Knight team was, you're going to probably want to play a lot of Mega Man, reference a lot of Mega Man sprites. Certainly not, I'm not suggesting copying them, but using them as reference for understanding proportion, understanding how enemy sizes and sprite sizes are made to conform to specific hitbox sizes or tile sizes in the world. Really is going to depend on what the resolution of the game you're making is, but in general, I would say pick references of games that inspire you and break down the sprites and the art and I guess build an understanding of how they were made and why they were made. From there, it's really just practice. There's not much else you can do other than kind of try and stand on the shoulders of giants that came before you and develop your own style through putting in the work. I'd really like to know sometimes a bit more about your process and problems of game development in general. This is by Hias or Hias. When did you decide the scope of Mina? How many levels? How many enemies per level? So that's a very loaded question, but I would say the scope of Mina was sort of established early on in terms of how many levels we wanted to have, but as far as like the actual content that's contained within the game at large, that's just ballooned over time. And as the passion for the project grew and as we developed a better understanding of what we wanted the game to be, and it's definitely larger than maybe what we initially were anticipating, but I think for the better. It's definitely a big game, but it's going to be packed with content, and it's going to be a whole lot of fun. As far as deciding enemies and objects per level, that comes through group discussion. So we decided early on that 5 enemies and 5 objects per level, unique to each level, was something that felt like a comfortable metric for us. And so before we start a new zone, we have a whole big spreadsheet full of possible ideas to pull from. And so, we'll go through it and say, these ones, no, they're rejected, no good, they won't work. Not necessarily because they're bad, they just don't really suit the needs of what we're trying to accomplish in that zone. And then a handful of others could work. And so we'll go through them, we'll pick out our 5 favorite ones, and that will be what goes into the game. And on that note, what I have on screen right now is a new enemy. So we're going to be starting a level called the Frozen Train Yard, which we announced a couple of Kickstarter updates ago. It's kind of a frozen wasteland with derelict trains and train crashes and pieces all over the place, kind of lodged into the snow. So it's going to be a very snowy, wintry themed space. This enemy in particular is not very winter themed, but it's something that we've wanted to implement for a while. It's a bad rat. So it's kind of a mirror image of Mina's movement and mechanics in a lot of ways. And it's going to be, I think, the first enemy that burrows, just like Mina does. So we have another enemy that goes into the ground. It's like a worm. We named it the Carcachurn. You can see it in the crypt area. It's that like red and white little worm guy that goes underground. But that's not really, it doesn't really do a burrow. It kind of goes into the ground and then teleports to a new area. So this bad rat is actually going to burrow and have a little burrow mound like Mina does, and move all around the stage trying to catch up to her and attack her. So what I've already done on this enemy is I went through the game design document, which I have open. Let's see. Turn this off for now. So this is our game design document, the GDD, the illustrious Bible for the game. And Alec and the design team wrote up a spec for the bad rat. And as I just mentioned, it's an enemy that burrows around just like Mina. So after going through this, I started by creating a sprite. The spec called for the sprite to be a little bit larger than Mina and a little more intimidating looking. So it's clear that it's kind of an antagonistic character in the world. Not just like a regular hollower that could be her friend or something. And the bad rat's burrow needed to be spiky, so if it hits you, it'll hurt. And the spec also called for a projectile weapon, which the rat, after it burrows around for a while, it'll pop out of the burrow mound and throw something spiky at you. It didn't matter what it was, just some kind of a round spinning projectile. And what we landed on was kind of like a bone shuriken. You can see the rat has these little spine pieces sticking out of it. So I thought it would be interesting if it pulls out a piece of its spine like a bone spur, and just that's what it's throwing at Mina. And additionally, it needs to be able to throw the projectile in 8 directions, which is a little unusual. We don't have a lot of enemies or characters in the world that move in 8 directions. They usually move in 4, like Mina. And by that I mean sprite facing directions, not actual in-game movement. And there's also a jump. So Mina gets around by jumping and then landing into her burrow, right? And so the rat needs to be able to do the same thing. So you can see at the top, this is Mina's jump frames, and so the rats are almost identical, just a few differences. That being they're a pixel or so wider, and they've got the rat's face and spiny back and all that kind of stuff. Here's the Mina's burrow mound compared to the spiky rat mound. And I did a turnaround so you can see all 8 directions of the rat. So from this, I'm going to use it as a base to make the projectile throwing frames. And these are always fun to make. I love doing turnarounds. They're just kind of, it's a relaxing endeavor for some reason for me. And then I also started some idle animation frames. So I figured I didn't want the enemy idle to be anything too complicated, so it's not too distracting, but generally, rather than just having a sprite stand stationary, right? It's not moving, it's just a single frame. When it's idle, that would kind of look too much like a sticker, right? If it's walking all around and it just stops without moving at all, there's no life to it. So what I did is just gave it a simple little look around, it ducks down, it's where Mina, I'm gonna find ya. Give me some of your cheese, right? Something like that. So we'll work that into the final mock-up I do later on. And it also needs a walk cycle, which I have not done yet, so maybe we can do that today. Let me just quickly make sure that no one's asking any questions. But yeah, so... Oh, and additionally, this sprite was made based on a concept that Morgan did. So this actually happened a long time ago. I think he did these concepts a year ago when we first talked about wanting to include this enemy. Maybe I can make it a little bigger so you can see. But yeah, so there were a handful that he did, and we ended up going with kind of a combination of C and D. So we liked D's proportions because it made it look more like a creature you would find in Mina's world, more like a character as opposed to a beast. An anthropomorphic rat, kind of like Mina's an anthromouse. But C seemed scarier, and the spine on the back was intimidating looking, so we just kind of made a combination of the two. And that's how this sprite came to be. So hopefully that's fun to see. Okay, so what should we do first? I can do a walk cycle first, maybe, just to get that out of the way for at least one direction. So what I need to decide here is what kind of a walk a rat like this would have, because I don't want to give it I don't want to give it an NPC style walk or like Mina's walk. It needs to have something that would differentiate it a little more from just an NPC walking around, so you know at first sight that it's dangerous. So for example, Mina's walk, her hands are to her sides, just kind of casually moving without a whole lot of she has character, but she's not like emoting anything in particular. She's not giving off an intimidating vibe or a sad vibe or an anxious vibe or anything like that. Similarly, our other NPCs, like this mouse gent, his walk is a little bit different from Mina's, but it's got a similar kind of casual attitude. But for example, let me see if I can find an enemy that has a good walk cycle for comparison. Where's the demon? Sorry, I'm like digging through my folders to try and find something that would be a good comparison. Here we go. Now this guy, he's got his arms out in like a kind of a scary curled finger pose, and his walk's a bit more lumbering. So maybe something more akin to this would make sense. He's moving at a different angle than these guys too. Something like that. And another thing to note is, while most Game Boy games utilize 2 to 3 frame walk cycles, we agreed really early on that we would allow Mina to have a little more, be a little more lenient on animation frame counts. So just to kind of let the animations shine a little bit, just because we're not limited to actual hardware restrictions, right? So our walk cycles tend to be about 4 frames. And we'll even repeat, like this frame is the same as the first one for the most part. So we'll repeat 2 of them, but we usually will go with 4 for something like this. Okay, so I might actually do this in a new file. Well, maybe I don't need to. Actually, yes, I do. Okay. Old man walking with his chest held high. Yeah. Giving the NPCs and that'll be walking around the hub a bit of life is definitely the highlight of this job, I think. I love just doing animations for NPC sprites, because you can kind of do whatever you want. You're not really limited to the same restrictions that you are when making an enemy, because you don't have to worry about hitboxes relative to Mina. You don't have to worry about how the player is going to interact with the character that much. You can really just go ham on having fun. Okay, so to animate a walk cycle, one of the first things I'll do is get the basic bob motion in. Assuming it's going to have bobbing motion, not bob motion, bobbing motion. So I don't want, the sprite's already pretty tall. I don't want it to get too much taller, so I'll probably bob down instead of bobbing up. Right, so you get that little chitter going on there. And then it's I probably want it to keep its hands up like that in the menacing pose. So move this foot in to make the neutral pose first. And apologies in advance if my commentary is not very insightful. I'm not used to speaking or articulating what I'm doing while I'm working, so that's also probably why I don't stream a whole lot. So this is going to be somewhat off the cuff. We're doing it live. Let's see what else I had. Please ignore this. This is, okay, I'll just show you anyway. So this is an alternative enemy that I was maybe going to do on stream. It's the Dogapede, and it's Alex's favorite enemy, I happen to know. So I started working on this. It's going to be a long, weird, segmented, wolf-like creature. And we're still figuring out the size of everything, so that's why I chose to do the rat instead. But you can see how creepy it is, right? Look at that. It looks all potentially petable and nice, and then when you get too close, gets angry and bares its giant, oversized, nasty teeth. So creepy, so scary. Maybe we'll do this one next time, or maybe it'll be done by then. But for today, back to the rat. Okay, so I know that I'm also going to want his head to turn very subtly while he's moving. And I think I already have a head turn that could work. The one that I made in the idle. So I might even just copy this over. Because that's the beauty of tiny sprites, where you can just reuse stuff. Dude. Yeah, look at that. It's coming together so fast. Perfect. That's exactly what I wanted. Okay, so what's actually happening here? The back foot moves forward. Then it needs to stay forward. While the other foot goes back. Now, because this foot is the back foot, I want it to probably be in shadow here. Maybe a tiny highlight would be okay, just so you recognize it as a foot. But not too much. Well, maybe a little more actually, because that doesn't really read very well. Dun, dun, dun. So it probably has to lift up a little bit. So the hands are overlapping the feet, and I don't want the hands to get obscured. So I'm trying to push where the foot would go behind the hands, and make sure that that content stays clear. Maybe I actually don't even need to show that back foot then. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, so that's foot down. Sometimes I'll give feet, like creature feet, like a claw kind of look. Like you can see this sort of changes the angle of the foot. So like if I do this, right, the foot looks flat. You can't really tell what direction it's facing in, like where the toes would be. Sorry, my webcam's a little like in a weird spot. So sometimes I'll add a darker sprite in the middle, or a darker pixel in the middle, to kind of delineate that these are two toes, right? But that means they're angled out toward the viewer. So with the rat, I noticed I didn't do that because I guess his feet are a little smaller. So I'm trying to think if I want to add any toes, like when his foot steps down, or not. Probably not. Not for this guy. His leg would extend here. Okay. So in this transition frame, his right foot is up, which means in this transition frame, his left foot has to be up. There we go. See how much of a difference that immediately makes? Here, he's just kind of like shuffling on the ground because during the transition frame, his foot's still on the ground. But if I take it out, even though there's just black pixels there, it looks better, like he's actually stepping, because you wouldn't see it from this perspective. You wouldn't see that back foot off the ground. I'm trying to read chat, Waz. I have it open, but I mean, Discord's open if anyone wants to hop in and join me and read off questions.
Yeah, join us. I should probably read off questions.
Did we get any other questions recently? Let's see.
Okay, so I was multitasking. Wasp wants to know, is Sandy reading chat?
Yeah, I saw that. And
when working, Shaw wants to know, when working with such a small resolution, how difficult do you find it to make a side-facing sprite still appear from a top-down view?
Wait 1 second. I turned your volume up a little bit. I'll just read it again. When working with such a small resolution, how difficult do you find it to make a side-facing sprite still appear from a top-down view? I mean, it's difficult. You get kind of used to it. I mean, one thing about Game Boy Color sprites in particular is that I should say actually it's Zelda sprites in particular, not Game Boy Color. Zelda on the Game Boy doesn't really utilize the top-down perspective that hard when it comes to sprites. So you can see the way that we're kind of emulating those is by tilting heads down a little bit, right? Like you can see the top of the rat's head. So there is some perspective happening there. But the feet are on a flat plane, right? From both the front and side angle. I mean, from all angles here. There are a few exceptions. And actually, so let me show you how we sometimes work with this. By opening up a cool new, never before seen example of something.
Whoa.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting. Which one is it? I think it's this. Okay, check it out. So here is a mock-up I recently did, I think last week, for a brand new weapon. This is a Mina first world premiere announcement without Jeff Keighley. He's going to be really sad that he didn't get to announce this. Okay, so for this weapon, we also needed Mina to have eight facing directions in her sprite. The weapon is the battery bat. So Mina gets this kind of buster arm that she's able to charge up and shoot blasts from. And when she runs out of ammo, she flips it around and turns it into a melee weapon. And by hitting enemies with the melee weapon, she rebuilds her ammo and then switches it back around and is able to shoot at range again. So like I mentioned, this called for 8 directions. And to do that, I needed to make new sprites for Mina facing top, like up and right and down and right, which she didn't have already. She also needed to do this cool little Robert Rodriguez spin, like from that guy in Obi-Wan, the recent Star Wars series, where he like, oh no, sorry, it was Boba Fett, where the guy like does this really awkward spin before shooting his laser gun. But anyway, you can see here that I offset. So even though Mina starts when she's facing down with both feet on the same plane, I offset the feet in order to indicate that she is facing diagonally at certain times. So here her feet are more or less, this is her tail, but here her feet are more or less on the same plane, right? But when she's facing at an angle, I really want to make it clear that we're working in a top-down perspective. So you can see her feet and her ears are at an angle, right? Like, so doing things like this helps sell the top-down nature of the game. Hopefully that kind of answers the question. It's difficult because, you know, you don't have a whole lot of pixels to play with, but you're trying to sell, you know, a 3D space. So yeah, it's difficult, but it's fun. It's an interesting challenge, and I'm a fan of tiny pixels. Yeah. I'll play it again while I'm going through chat quickly. Dun, 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 dun.
Okay, we got a question.
Okay.
What's been one of your favorite characters to design so far?
One of my favorite characters. Well, Morgan. So Morgan's usually the one that does the concept designs for the characters before I sprite them up. There are some exceptions. Sometimes we just go straight to sprite. But like the bad rat you can see on screen right now, Morgan's incredible artwork and imagination help inform what ends up hitting the pixel page and gets in game. But yeah, man, that's such a hard question because we have so many. This game's so full of weird NPCs and characters. One of my favorites is one that we have actually shown before. It's a merchant character named Poppet. Let me bring him up. This guy. I really like this character. There's a lot more to this guy than you have a full understanding of at first meet in the game. And I'm not going to spoil it, but I'm a big fan of the backstory and the mystery behind this merchant. So I guess you'll have to play to find out. But this is probably, without too much deep thinking, my favorite character at the moment. Okay, back to the rat walk cycle. I'm actually going to do a quick save too, because I want to make sure I don't lose our progress. Okay. How easy is it to animate and keep it looking like a Game Boy game as opposed to an NES game? Asks Darktone. So there are actually a lot of similarities between NES and Game Boy sprites. The color restrictions are generally the same. The palette restrictions are actually way more strict on NES. On Shovel Knight, we broke the restrictions, the 4 color restrictions on occasion, and would add a 5th color sometimes if it was a really complicated sprite, or we just felt like we wanted to squeeze a little more just color out of whatever we were working on at the time. So there were occasions where we break the rules, and in Mina there are a few exceptions as well. Really what differentiates NES and Game Boy sprites, I would say, are the animation frame counts. Game Boy sprites tend to have fewer frames per animation. So like I was saying, a walk cycle would probably only be like 2 frames, maybe 3 at most if it's like a main character or something and they're willing to sacrifice a bit more of their tile sheet space for just to get a little bit more motion out of a character you're seeing constantly. And NES is usually a little bit less restricted. But yeah, as far as color palette too, like I was saying, like Game Boy color palette is pretty much limitless. Whereas the NES palette is what was it? Waz knows, so he'll correct me, but I think it's like 56 colors or something max. It's really a small amount. Okay, I'll give the tail a little bit of motion here too.
Do you want me just to throw other questions at you?
Yeah, please.
Okay, so I'm not sure if you answered this one yet, but how hard is it when transitioning a design from concept to pixel art, or sprite art, I mean?
When translating from concept to pixel?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess the hardest thing is knowing what to cut. So in the concept for the rat, you can see Morgan puts a lot more detail into, all of his designs. Like he added a vest, like in D, he added a vest on the big rat there wearing the big coat. And on C, he's got like a full rib cage and, strands of fur and stuff sticking out. When this is translated and scaled down to a 16 pixel character, we can't really fit all of that in. So what that ends up translating to is what you can see here, like this purple area down here on the rat's belly was my attempt to do a sort of combination of maybe implying he's wearing a vest, maybe it's just some other sort of like shirt piece, or maybe it's just his underbelly, and it's in shadow. And you can see here, like the jacket he's wearing ends up becoming just 3 pixels of, just a 3 pixel line. So representation and implication of form and shape is really what this comes down to. Pixel art is really more putting, it's more doing a puzzle than it is illustration. While illustration fundamentals are important, so you understand what aesthetic proportion and shape are, I would say really it just comes down to puzzling together whatever few pixels that you're working with to make something look readable, to make this look like a hand, and a hand that's doing something very specific, like kind of doing this, as opposed to making a fist or something else. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. Again, it's a puzzle.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
So Shadowhog wants to know, is there much you can say about Mina's clown nose phase?
Her clown nose phase?
Yeah.
I mean, that was all Alec. Alec's the big honkin' clown nose fan. We ended up veering away from that idea mainly just because we wanted the game's tone to be a little bit more, to take itself kind of seriously. We have jokes in the game, but we want the world to take itself seriously, and we want the players to feel like Mina is like a brave, cool character, as opposed to somebody that you're laughing at. So as cute and fun as that honker is we decided we would go in a different direction.
We should add it back for the DLC.
It should definitely be a cheat code or something. Yes,
For 99 clown nose.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Yes.
Hey, I'm just lurking in here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey, yeah. Hey, Bridget.
Hey, we had a question earlier that I also wanted to ask about the color limit. From Cisco Ragland asked, how does the 8x8 color limit grid influence the key poses for animations?
Can you say that again? I'm going to turn your volume up a little bit.
Oh, sure. How does the 8x8 color limit grid influence the key poses for animations? So their example is bloat neck swinging his paddle. Like if there's any influence there?
The only thing that it would influence is, let me bring up the example then so I can illustrate it a little bit better. I think I have a mock-up actually showing this. 360. Okay, right. So this is the enemy they were talking about. This is the bloat neck from the bayou. So you can see in promotion, this grid that I have pulled up right now is showing you how I segmented the colors. And this is why it works. I've got this yellow accent color, right? This highlight color that I'm using all over the sprite, except where you see the ore. And this is very intentional. So in these 8x8 squares are the only places you will not see that yellow color, right? And so it still fits the 1, 2, 3, 4 color restrictions. So in the idle, in this pose, it was very important that it was very important to me that I followed the restrictions. I think once I started animating him, I might have gotten a little looser with it. I mean, here you can see the ore is very separate from the sprite still, so it works. Here there's a smear frame on top, which is actually, it counts as a completely separate sprite, so that's not an issue. But here the ore is still segmented. Okay, here's an example, and feel free to call me out or whatever, but so there's a little bit of yellow that creeps in on his hand here. 2 pixels breaks the restrictions a little bit, right? Because there's some brown in this square. But, when Mina is not bound to the grid at all times in game, right? Characters can move all around like this. So there is a time where the sprite could look like this, right? And it does fit the restrictions. So that's kind of how I look at it. Like, we're not actually on Game Boy hardware. None of this actually matters, right? We're doing it just because it's an aesthetic that we want to follow. It's a style, basically. It's Game Boy Color style, but it's not actually on Game Boy Color. So as long as, for all intents and purposes, it gives the impression of Game Boy, it's fine. It doesn't actually have to work on a Game Boy, right? So hopefully that answers the question, and this illustrated a little bit of how we do it. Like you can see here too, right? The ore is actually crossing his body. It should actually look like this. But just to, kind of make good on the style, I chose to change alter the colors a little bit to keep the restrictions intact. So there you go. Hopefully that was interesting. Okay, so the walk cycle for the rat is in a pretty decent state for the side angle, and I think now we're ready to go for the walking down angle. Yeah. Okay, so we put the bob motion in there. Bob motion. Like that. Dun, dun, dun. That was the Corvid and Pitchfork pose. Yeah, Cisco, it was definitely similar. Okay. So let's see, what do his feet gotta do? So this is the transition frame, right? Where his foot is gonna come up. So because it's a front facing angle, I actually might give him some clawed feet here. Assuming it looks a little better. We'll see. And I'll push that foot back. And I'm actually just gonna flip this frame for the other side. And so, okay, so his right foot is up, and then it's got a step. And I'll shift his knee a little bit so it still looks like he has that same kind of crouched pose. And then this foot's got to go way back. Doop, 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 doop. Okay. So that's sort of getting there. Probably keep a little bit of a light source on the foot the whole time, so you register them as feet. Yeah, his feet, without keeping the knee in there too, his feet are kind of disappearing a little more than I'd like. So I added some knee back in there. The program being used, Star Pedal, is ProMotion by Cosmigo. It's not a very commonly used software, but at Yacht Club we have used it for a very long time. It's actually a carryover from the Way Forward days when the Yacht Club team, many of them were working at Way Forward, and that's what they used there. It's a very good program. I would recommend it. It's just because it's not very commonly used and it's a very small development team, there's not a whole lot of support for it, or like communities for it. So you might have trouble asking questions about how to use certain tools. So that's maybe why I wouldn't totally recommend it. Sprite's probably a better way to go if you're looking for something to use. Okay, I gotta get a little bit of head turning motion in there too, I think. And I can, again, pull one of these idle turns. Is that what I want to use? I wonder if just using his angry face would actually look better here. Reason being, I don't really want his head to turn in both directions as he's walking. That might be a bit too exaggerated a walk cycle. Nah, this doesn't make sense either though. I'll keep it off to the side for now, just in case I want to go back to this idea, but let's test it with the head turn. Yeah, see, that's a little much. Not a fan. Oh, see you, Donut. Thanks for coming. Dr. Blue said, I can see why most sprite work in games, etc., mirror even if it causes inaccuracies, like Link's sword changing changing sides. Yeah. There is a whole lot of extra effort required if you don't just flip the frames. Yeah, like these are all just flipped. Actually, so initially I did do completely custom frames for Mina because, right, like in the right facing, her buster is on her right arm, right? So it would be weird if when she's facing left, it's on her left arm. So I did actually do completely custom art at one point for this, where I had the buster kind of shaved down and then her arm extended out, and like you saw her left hand kind of rised up like this. It was something like that, where she's like placing it like kind of like Mega Man pose, like placing her left hand on top. But ultimately I decided that it was just more in line with what a Game Boy game would do to flip it, and it really doesn't matter at the end of the day. Like, I think that her using the weapon on either the left or the right arm, I mean, we could even make lore reasons for why she would do that, right? Like maybe she's ambidextrous. So at the end of the day, I think saving work is actually it helps enhance the Game Boy Color impressions that we're trying to give off, and so the decision to leave it was fine, I think. I'm going to add an idle frame that I can use to test the transition from an idle pose to the walk, because sometimes that helps figure out the placement of the feet and how exaggerated head movement looks while you're trying to work that stuff out. So maybe now that I put the idle in, yeah, so that kind of looks okay. Now that I have the idle starting the animation, this is kind of the level of subtlety that I want in the head motion. I want there to be a change in the expression, so it's like really clear that it's going from one state to a new state when it switches from idle to walk, but I didn't want it to look too exaggerated. So this is kind of getting across what I wanted. Wait a sec. So that's what I meant to do. Yeah, I pushed the ears down a little bit. And now that broke the angle, so I'm gonna change that back. Yeah, so this kind of back and forth that I'm doing right now, this is definitely typical of the pixel art process, especially with tiny sprites, because like I said, you're not illustrating really as much as you are just doing a puzzle. So I'm trying to find the optimal arrangement of pixels and placement of pixels to make the ears look like they're at the angle that I want them to be. I kind of want, because her head's, you know, the rat is like facing like this in the idle pose. When it tilts its head up to start walking, I want the ears to go back a little bit. So I'm just trying to figure out the angle of the ears. Like it's stalking almost. But whatever, maybe it doesn't actually add anything. It's not super noticeable. Dun, 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 dun. Oops. Sandy, what's the best exercise to target rear deltoids? Rear deltoids, probably like a face pull or something. If you've never done those, it's the one where you like take the cable, the rope, and you like pull it back like this. So you can, I mean, even if you just make this motion, you'll really feel like a squeeze in the top of your back where the rear deltoids are.
Oh no, I posted what Sandy's workout routine as a joke. I'm sorry.
Cisco asks, serious question though, what is the smear technique being used in Mina, and how does the 8x8 grid influence the way you draw smears? It doesn't really influence the way I draw them. What influences the smear is the motion of the weapon or whatever is moving. Sorry, 1 second. I can find some examples of this. I mean, even the big frog one, or sorry, the bloat neck one, big frog's what we call it at the office. But yeah, so, I mean, this is just the way that Game Boy would do their smears is they make separate sprites and they overlay them on top of whatever is doing the motion. And often what you'll see too is like the smear will blink like this. Sorry, it was a little small. So yeah, it'll look like that. And I think in game, this is actually what it looks like. But yeah, something like that. The smear just follows the motion of whatever's moving, and it doesn't really have to follow the tile restrictions that much because it, I mean, well, okay, that's actually not entirely true because it does have an attack box. So because it's going to interact with the player, you do need to think about the size of the attack that you want and how, I guess, yeah, so yeah. I retract what I said. It does need to fit the size of the attack box that you're using, but I guess that's the main thing to keep in mind. The swing. Yeah, I wonder if I have a mock-up for this swing. Oh yeah, all animations. This one should have it. Here's his walk. Thrust and swing. Yeah, this is an old animation. This is one of the first enemies that we put in the game, actually. This one was a lot of work because it has so many different angles and so many attacks that move at different angles. And you can see like his swing needed to have frames of him like rotating all the way around because it's a 180-degree swing. So the smear goes from more or less the starting point being where, so like I was talking about the attack boxes before. For this swing, we needed the attack box to fill this like full 180 degree area. And actually, maybe I can make this an image, right? So the smear, I guess this is not quite that accurate, but the smear needed to be like this. So it needed to fit this amount of space. So we knew that if Mina's standing anywhere in this red area, she's gonna get hit, right? And so the smear, because the animation's only like a few frames, the smear needed to extend even larger to cover the area that is Mina's danger zone effectively for the duration of the attack. Doop, doop, like that. Dun, dun, dun. Okay. Yeah, smears they don't usually take up that much space, or even like I just showed, we had 3 different smears, right? Usually it's just like one smear that blinks out because it's just supposed to show motion. But yeah, in that case, it really needed to also indicate the danger area. So it was a bit of a different situation than the usual. Okay, I'm not super happy with this down walk cycle just yet, but I think it might be an okay time to move on to the other one. Actually, just a sec.
I'm not sure if you answered Dark Tone's question, but he said, what sprites didn't you do?
What sprites didn't I do? I did pretty much all the sprites in the game.
Whoa!
Yeah. Yep, it's just me doing sprites on Mina for now.
Has anyone done any other sprite work on this? Besides the scenes, which I think were Waz and Morgan, right?
So Waz and Morgan worked on the cutscenes. Yep, and Morgan did the panorama art, which is gorgeous. And Alec did a few sprites too. There's a few sidearms that he did really early on. Maybe a couple of objects. So yeah, but for the most part, it's just me, and that's why it's taken us a while, because it's a big game and there's a lot to do.
Work faster. Just kidding. Oh my god.
Yeah, I know. I tell myself that all the time. Work faster.
On, I'll be right back.
Okay, so here's a trick. One thing that I'll often do when doing walk cycles, right? Or actually any sprites, when I do the down facing poses, I'll often just duplicate them to make the upward facing. Because the motion's going to generally be the same, just flipped. So I have the up-facing sprite there. I'll just copy this one and flip it. Probably doesn't matter even with the flip because, well, I guess the motion of the feet is all that needs to flip. And then I'll just go through a process of replacement. So I'm just gonna copy everything that's probably not gonna move much and paste it on top. It's never usually exact, but it gives me a good foundation to work from, and the rest is pretty much just cleanup at that point. Yeah, so you can see it's already it's already like halfway there, which is certainly convenient. So one thing that I need to do for cleanup, for example, is how I was saying I made his foot look a little like toed from the front. Obviously there are no toes in the back of your foot, so I need to make this look more like a heel. And just adding a little bit of shading should help that. Another thing is that the frames are backwards. So I just realized I can't only flip it, I have to play them in reverse. Doop doop doop. Yeah, there we go. And interestingly, doing that indicated to me that this foot, well, maybe it's just for the back facing ones, but I didn't like the angle of the feet. Looked a bit weird. Like they were too far to the side. That looks better. And I'm going to just duplicate this, actually. And flip it. There we go. Doop, doop, doop. Wow, look at that little butt shake. Yeah, I should. Blame this on Waz. Dum 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 dum. Give it a little highlight. Look at that rat booty. Dum 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 dum. Yeah, I got paid to do this. Okay, but now he needs his tail. That's gonna cover it up. What I'm gonna do for the tail, actually, I could just animate one off the cuff, but I kind of like when things in Game Boy games reuse assets as often as they can. So for this, I might open up Mina's walk because she has a tail that kind of waves back and forth when she walks upward as well. And I might see if I can just rip that tail walk or that tail motion. Boom, boom, boom. So let's just put it next to him. Look at that. Look at that swifty tail motion. It's so fluid. The rat's tail is a little smaller than Mina's. So if I move the base of her tail up a little bit, I might be able to get the same effect. And then I could just copy it over. This is what we in the biz call cheating, but smart cheating. So using your noggin.
No one uses the word noggin.
Using your noggin, right, Bridget?
100%.
That's what we do here at the Yacht Club. We use our noggins.
I didn't realize I had one until today.
Go team.
What is a noggin? I want to know where that came
head.
from.
Okay, see, you brought this on yourself. I don't even know.
I know. I don't
It's a
either.
head. Using your brain.
I mean, like, I know what it means, but like,
But
I have no
yeah,
idea where it comes
where'd that
from.
come from?
So it is slang.
Watch it be like a Victorian era slang.
I bet you it is.
Oh my god, that'd be so. It actually dates itself back to the late 1500s.
1500s?
Yeah.
Whoa.
So
That's pre-Mina.
That's some
Yeah,
old
that is.
noggin. Yeah.
yeah, it was initially used as a word for a cup or a mug.
A cup
Yeah.
or a mug.
Yeah.
Interesting. So you drank out of your noggin?
Yeah, because I think it started as that, and then noggin also has a meaning that it's like a quantity of liquor.
Are you just
So I
making
think-
this history up, Celia?
What?
How
I
do you
just
know
Googled
this?
it.
Oh.
I Googled it. I'm
Okay.
reading all the things it says.
I am very impressed.
I like how
How
you
did-
doubted me, but also believed that I just knew this.
Wait, how did that evolve into something that you use?
That's a good question. I'll Google it. I mean, use my vast knowledge to tell you in a couple minutes.
Yeah, I'm fascinated now. 1620s, a small cup or mug. Later of the contents of such a vessel. Small drink. Well, okay, 1620s, 1690s, that's like very
That's a lifetime.
Well, that's like right pre-Victorian. Well, I guess actually now it's like 100 years pre-Victorian, so because I was gonna
Pre-Victorian.
pre-Victorian.
If we all agree that it probably was still used, it's fine.
I mean, I was gonna say we should just start tossing that word in everywhere in the game if it was Victorian at all. But alas,
Such is life.
yep, it's just life. So what I'm trying to do right now is, now that we have the tail motion in, and I can get Mina out of here now. I'm trying to bring some of the coat back in, because the fact that the rat's wearing a long coat kind of got obscured by adding the feet in the tail.
I'm watching the two sprites do like a synchronized dance on stream.
Yeah.
It's like a Disney moment for a second.
Dogapede.
We should have a noggin salesman in the game.
A noggin salesman?
Sells cups.
Oh, it sells cups, right? Of course, of course. What else could you have meant? Certainly not a brain
That could be the joke.
or a head, right? It's like I thought I was here to buy a head, and all you're selling is kitchenware.
If only we had a sketchy NPC that we could use for that.
Yeah, too bad we have none of those.
No,
This game is just so normal.
very straight laced.
Very.
So I have a Mina lore question that I don't know if we've ever thought about.
Shoot.
But so you know how like the
I guess the Tenebris Isle is very, vaguely European. Are they all gonna smell bad too? Like, the shower,
How rude.
like, is that gonna be something notable?
No.
No.
Everyone takes showers and is very cleanly.
Yeah, because reason being is that I was like reading this this is really off topic. Sorry, stream. Like this isekai thing where it's like if you go back in time and it's like they never address that like modernly like hygiene is very different than Victorian era hygiene.
Yeah, I think Victorian era plumbing consisted of like pouring your garbage out the window.
Right.
Yeah, like that was like
Yeah.
the best. So I'm like, I wonder if Mina would be like, oh wait a minute. Or I guess since she's from the time, that's like the norm.
What if Mina
It would-
invents plumbing?
Whoa.
It would be really funny if you're like walking through the hub. If you like walk past someone's window, there's like a 10% chance
You'll get
that they
splashed.
a little bit, yeah.
Or there's like puddles and you're like, you don't want to step in that.
There
Right,
are
right.
puddles. Oh my
And we
gosh.
have a dialogue box that says you don't want to step in that.
We should.
Yeah, we have like rain puddles. Well, actually, we have like a lot of shallow water tiles too.
Oh, right.
Well, there you go.
I mean, we have like 3 NPCs that are covered in some kind of mysterious, like, smelly goop that tell you
Oh yeah,
you stink
like I
or
think
they
of one.
stink or...
Who are the other two?
Well, I
Secret.
mean, there's Midden, which is the obvious one, but then there's like
Right.
one called Stinky Guy. Or no, I guess that is Midden. There's the
That
one
is
that
Midden.
like Jub the Pariah like scratches his
Right.
skin flakes. And
Gross.
I mean, there are definitely more.
That's great. Sorry
Yeah.
to derail this conversation. I just was like curious.
It's a world in dire need of medicine and hygiene
And sparks.
and sparks. Yes, that is number 1.
I feel like showers is like 4th on my list.
After Mina saves the world, they can worry about taking a bath.
That's really funny.
There we go. It's looking a little better. Got some motion of the coat tails flapping in the back there. I might add a bit of motion to the hands too at some point because I think they're looking maybe a little too stiff. Dun, 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 dun. That's true. Mina's underlab is a hot tub. It's like a hot spring. So she's taking a bath every time she goes in to refill her health.
Yeah,
But, like,
she's
na-
really-
Natural hot springs though like also smell bad, so I don't know where she lands on that spectrum of like clean to smelling good.
Does she always smell like sulfur?
I hope not.
maybe Midden was right.
Oh my gosh. That's such a good point.
She is stinky.
I feel like Midden's the expert.
He really is. We should make Midden scratch and stiff stickers. Or is that
Agreed.
gross?
I mean, I don't know that I'm gonna buy one, but we sure can.
It could be like, the Harry Potter jelly beans that have gross flavors sometimes.
Yeah.
It could be like that, but scratch and stiff stickers.
I remember like a couple years ago purposely eating like a few of those with a friend, like eating more than necessary, like purposely eating the bad ones. And what's messed up about eating the bad ones is like then you start to recognize those flavors in other foods.
Oh no.
So like I would be eating food and then be like, "Oh, this tastes like that terrible flavor."
Like what?
I mean, they have some really bad flavors. Just think of bad flavors.
Okay.
They have like a
I-
vomit flavor. They have like an earwax flavor.
Gross.
Very gross.
Earwax, delicious.
Yeah,
What if that's somebody's favorite flavor, like actually?
they're a sicko and need to be stopped.
You know how like some people say red M&Ms or whatever taste the best, or like pink Starburst? I mean, at least that one actually has a flavor
Okay, that one
difference.
actually is better.
That one's real. That one's true. But like, yeah, what if there's someone that's like, save me all the earwax birdie bots? That's my favorite.
I don't think I'd be friends with that person. I'd certainly give them all of it, but I would not be their friend.
Wow.
I know. My judgment.
Don't yuck somebody else's yum, Celia.
Oh
You're
my
right.
god.
I'm the bad guy here.
All right, what I'm doing now is I'm going to start on the throwing animations because I think the walk cycles are in a good spot. Yeah, Waz. Waz is right. So this is the beauty of sprites, right? Especially small sprites. Like, they really don't have to take all that long, and we can get a lot done in a short amount of time, which is always nice when you're working on a timeline or in a timeline. Oh, weird.
Dr. Blue just made a very good point. Mina carries a lot of soup to mask all the stench.
Apparently, this is true.
Yeah, I feel like that's a good point.
We need to have a soup trinket.
Yeah. Like tomato soup, because doesn't that get rid of like
Oh,
skunk
right.
stench? Or is that like a wives' tale? I've never been sprayed by a skunk, so I can't confirm or deny.
Yeah, purportedly.
But I know in Rugrats, they wash them in borscht, so I'd assume.
Oh, right. Beet soup. All right, got all my angles queued up. Can grab the little projectile just to have something to use for the mock-up. Let's put it over there. All right. So all she needs to do is throw it. Can probably get away with just doing this in 2 frames, maybe 3 if I want to have a little overshoot motion. So what I'd probably do is bring the arm back. Actually, oh, does it need to pull the bone projectile out of its spine?
How are you gonna make it like reach back there?
Yeah, I know. I guess that would be kind of a problem. It would have to like break its elbow to get it out.
Could they just be like in its pockets?
It could be, yeah. Or maybe it's like pulling ribs off of itself or something. It's probably
Oh,
an
geez.
unnecessary step to add anything more. Okay, so put his little throwing hand there.
I hope I
Probably
get to help with Bad Rat.
turn.
I just love saying Bad Rat. That's a big part of it.
Bad rat.
Sandy, if you voice his voice, I can make a trailer for Bad Rat merch.
Yeah, it's me, Bad Rat, see? I'm coming here to stop Mina from curing the land of Tenebrous Isle.
We should make a bunch of really dorky 90s commercials from like that point of view. I think that's really funny. Video game marketing was so awesome in the 90s.
Oh yeah, that was definitely peak marketing.
Chili's Bad Rat backwards. Oh my god.
It's ribs. Yeah, it was. I think you're right. It's got to be ribs. That just makes the most sense. And look at that. This is the beauty of making like a full turnaround. That I can just reuse a bunch of the heads that I've already made because they fit the angles that I'm trying to do. Its foot's probably gonna turn a little bit. Loop. Loop. Yeah, reusing sprites is an art form. Not only is it an efficient use of time, but luckily it's something they did all the time back in the days of yore when retro games were being made. So we can get away with it and call it inspiration, I guess. And yes, I do usually listen to music while I'm working, or podcasts. Not really podcasts, but like YouTube videos of just people talking about things. One of the best things about doing art for work is it utilizes a different part of your brain that like allows you to take in information, I guess like auditory information, because your brain's kind of, you know, working the visual side with like one part of it, and you have like a whole other part free to listen to, you know, someone talking, or even, you know, a TV show or something wouldn't even be that distracting for me. But if I was trying to write something or do, you know, code, which I don't do, but like I've dabbled in, I definitely can't listen to anything other than maybe like some light music, or I'm just completely distracted. I don't know if any of you have the same experience, but
Yeah, if I'm really trying to focus on something, if I really, really need to focus, I'll just turn music off, like when I'm
Yeah.
programming. But if it's... Usually what I do is I'll pick a song and I'll just play it on repeat
oh really?
for hours.
I do that too.
Yeah, it like helped because I want to listen to something, but I don't really want to pay that much attention to it, and so it just kind of, that can actually really help me focus.
I pick a song that like gives my brain the like dopamine or whatever hits,
Yeah.
and it goes on repeat. And yeah, like during Pocket Dungeon's release, I listened to this one song for like I think 60 days straight.
Oh, the same song? What was it?
I do not remember the name. Let me Google it. I think it's like The World Ends.
With you?
Fun.
No.
Oh, not the game. The world is ending. Is that how you felt when you were doing Pocket Dungeon release marketing?
Maybe.
The world is ending.
But the thing is, I export it from my brain. Like once that's over, and it doesn't like, it doesn't like give me that like hit anymore. I just stop listening to it.
You know, they do have like full albums of music that last like an hour or so that you could put on without having to just loop the same song over and over.
Nah.
That would defeat the purpose
Of
of
what?
listening to the same
Okay.
song over and over.
I know. That's the idea.
Okay, I found the song. It's "As the World Caves In" by Matt Maltese.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's like, it's not a happy song.
Yeah, I wouldn't have guessed it was.
Yeah. So if anyone's wondering, here you go.
Oh, there we go.
Right. My most recent loop, you know that song from Nope that's about like it's like 2 minutes long. Towards the end, there's like a really exciting scene. Do you guys know what I'm talking about?
I know.
Without
I did see the
spoiling
movie.
No, but
Nope.
continue.
Okay, never mind.
Nope.
I'm looping like a 2-minute song. today.
Share it in chat, so everyone. Currently, it's the the TikTok version of Kill Bill. That song.
The TikTok version?
You mean
Yeah.
like?
So it's sped up. It's like Nightcore.
Oh, okay.
I can't
Oh
say the
yeah,
word.
Nightcore.
Yeah. But right now, that song, the like I just killed my ex song or whatever. It was like a bad idea.
That's
song.
Doja Cat.
Is it Doja Cat?
Yeah.
Okay, well, something to keep in mind is that they speed it up and then someone reposts it and then it says by them. So that's why I think I'm just ruining things. But yeah, I've been listening to that on repeat.
Doja Cat's supposed to drop a new song tomorrow. Very exciting.
I just learned yesterday you're such a fan, Bridget.
Big fan.
Big fan, big fan.
Is she your favorite artist?
I don't know if I have a favorite. She's up there.
Yeah, she likes anime. Apparently, I found that out and I was like, cool.
Oh, check it out. Look how fast we got there. Because I was able to reuse a bunch of frames. Because I was smart when I started by making all these turnarounds. Boop, boop, boop.
I think we're like a few seconds behind, but that throw looks really cool.
Oh yeah, no worries. I'll even add in the actual projectile.
Little shuriken moment.
Yeah. Can we finish a throwing animation in time? We sure can.
Hey,
Hey.
zing. Hey.
Come on, it wouldn't be a yacht club stream without a bad joke. A bad pun.
I muted myself because I'm eating an apple, but I also said a. I just wanted to point that out.
Thanks for indulging me.
Hey, Dr. Blue has a question. I'm not sure if this is like a programming question or art question,
Shoot.
but they're asking, at what point does a projectile separate from the main sprite to become like an item in-game that has a hitbox? And I feel like the answer is as soon as it visually separates. Like in code, we would just spawn a new thing. I'm not sure how to answer that question.
This is how we do mockups for anyone who is interested. Or this is how I do them at least. So by putting this together, I'm able to give it to the programming team who will use it as a reference. I mean, not necessarily an animation like this because it's pretty self-explanatory when you see the frames. But you know, for something like that new weapon mock-up that I showed, stuff like that's pretty valuable for the programming team, I think, because it gives a visual reference for timing of each frame, like how long the arm for this rat, like in this example, should stay back here, and then how long it should stay forward after it throws the projectile, things like that. So, and also just doing these is good for me too, because it lets me know that when I see the assets in game, they're going to flow and work well together. And I'm going to make sure I save this file because I have not yet.
Yeah, I think usually the rule of thumb, like on the programming side, is like once the little shuriken isn't part Like maybe it's built into the sprite, you know, for a certain amount of time, but once we hit that throw frame, that's the point where we would spawn like a new object.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like this is what you're saying, right, Bridget? Like right here, you spawn the projectile at the throw when the throw frame is drawn.
Yeah. There's
so it
a
does
couple.
not exist yet when it's
Yeah,
like
if there were like a wind up frame where he's like still holding it, you know, that would just be part of the art. And then once, yeah, I see. Once he gets to that like frame where he's doing the throw, then we would make a new thing, like a new object in code.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's all set up in Cutter so that it like it spawns at like the exact right place that we want to, and we can set it up so that it looks smooth.
Kind of want to give him a different expression when he's about to attack. Maybe he like opens its mouth in a yell or something. And you can see it has 2 big front teeth. I don't know. It gives it a little more character, maybe. Darktone says, you mentioned trying to keep Mina as close to a Game Boy Color game as possible. Besides scaling and screen size, what other parts wouldn't be on a Game Boy Color game? So yeah, the screen size is wider than Game Boy Color because we're trying to support widescreen games or widescreen hardware. Other parts, I mean, everything, the whole engine could not run on Game Boy hardware. I mean, this I would say Mina is an homage to Game Boy Color games, but it is nothing like a Game Boy Color game in every other respect, other than like visuals and gameplay inspirations. If that makes sense. All right, this is probably good enough for me right now. I might revisit it a little bit later for some cleanup, but I'll move on to another angle. So for this angle, the ear's gonna need to go, so the head's gonna need to tilt a little bit, like that. And probably move up a pixel, just one, so it's not too extreme. But I need to move the eyes like that. I need to move the nose over to fit that angle. The ear will look a little bit different when angled. So when I'm creating a new frame, a custom frame, I'm not just like cleaning up something from like, you know, something that I already have. I will often just make it super messy, like all, you know, I have this idle that I'm starting from, but if I have an idea for the next pose in my head, I'll just like marquee around pieces that I want to reuse and just like rotate them and just do a super sloppy version of what I'm trying to do before I just do a cleanup pass. And what I want to do here is make sure that the rat's throwing antic, the anticipation pose, looks the same from every angle. So because I made the left arm sticking out and the right arm cocked back ready to throw something, I want to do the same thing over here in the downward facing pose. So you have the left hand sticking outward, and I need to show a little bit more of its back because from this angle you'd be able to see it. And then the right hand needs to come back. Unfortunately, you won't see much of it from this angle, so that might be a little tricky to work, but I'll figure it out. And like I was saying before, sometimes the way we fudge the perspective, the top-down perspective, is with stuff like this, where I just shifted the foot back, because from this angle it wouldn't really be visible, and the toes would be further back along the y-axis, or this, well, I guess along the ground plane here. So that's about all you'd see. And then we get to see the toes, because that foot's coming forward. And I probably can reuse the same frame, actually. It looks like this tilted head is going to be usable again. It's not quite at the right angle though, unfortunately. I don't think I have a better one. Yeah. So the ears need to be in a different pose, or at different angles, sorry. This one I can reuse here. Something like that. But yeah, this ear, because it needs to be higher back than the other one, as opposed to this frame where they're level, or it looks more like it's at this angle. I can't really reuse this frame exactly. I need to make something a little more custom for this. But I actually changed the expression in the side-facing pose, so maybe I'll just try and replicate that first. I must say, this is very insightful, seeing how things are done from an artist's perspective, as well as what you think about when making sprites for the characters. Yeah, thanks, Anthony. Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, I'm not super used to articulating what I'm doing or why while I'm working. I just kind of work intuitively. So this might not be the most articulate explanation of things, but if it's insightful at all, then I'm pleased. Seeing if I can fit a little bit of an indication of his sleeve in this wind-up pose, but it might be a little tricky, just because of the angle. Yeah. I might mess with it a little bit later. It's not quite right to me, but it's not terrible for now. Okay.
I do the same thing in programming all the time.
Like just tweaking back and forth.
Yeah, like, I don't love that, but we're gonna do the next thing and then come back.
I mean, you just have to do that for your own sanity sometimes, right? And you might come back later and have an insight that you didn't before, and it'll just come to you really fast. Yeah. All right, anyway. Now for the throwing pose, and what I used here was the foundation for this pose was just the idle pose, so I can probably do the same thing here. Oops. I'll actually use this one instead, because the head is tilted in the way that I want it to be. Boop, boop. This hand's gotta go back. Probably pushed it a little too far there. So let's see. Gotta render in a little bit of his collar, the collar of his coat, and then get the rest of the arm in there with some sleeve. Well, that's more or less the gist of the motion. Sandy, are you a full-time pixel artist or do you have other duties at Yacht Club? I am a full-time pixel artist. All of us at Yacht Club do have other duties, however. 1 second. Massive apologies. I will be right back.
Well, Sandy is gone. Welcome to the Bridget and Celia show. Oh, awkward.
We
I was
were gonna
making
run.
a-
We were gonna run the stream for a second there, but that's fine.
Yeah. Just kidding. To be continued. Oh, I think he's still doing stuff. Okay, continued.
Yeah, the
Keep-
stream is like 10 seconds behind, so I have no idea.
Oh, well, we'll find out. So, Bridget, you should try out your type 5 that you've been telling me about. You know, like all your stand-up comedy jokes that you've been practicing.
Why are you doing this to me?
Ooh, stand-up comedy.
No, there aren't any. Oh, good, Sandy, you're back.
Oh. Okay.
No,
Jake,
I'm back for
save
the
me.
stand-up. That's why I came back. I heard it was
Save
happening.
No.
Yeah, sorry, Cisco. So all of us at Yacht Club I would say we wear multiple hats because we're not a very big company. We're around 20 people. We all tend to chip in wherever we can. So whether it's writing Kickstarter updates or helping out with social media, if Celia is not around or something and it's needed, or whether it's someone jumping between art and level design duties, all kinds of stuff. I mean, we all help each other out as often as we can and do everything we need to keep the company running. So yeah, me personally, I've handled a handful of other things aside from just pixel art, but that is the majority of what my time is spent on.
There's also like a good amount of Kickstarter stuff to do like regularly every month. So like Sandy's a big help in writing the updates and like we all kind of pitch in responding to people's messages, and like I think Waz still answers people's questions on the Kickstarter.
Yeah, so do
And
you,
it's
right?
been like over a
Bridget?
year. Yeah, I try to help answer messages, and so like that's kind of a category of stuff to get done too.
Yeah. Yep. We all do our part to chip in.
Go team.
Go team.
Eric is asking if there's ever been an enemy that you went back to redo the sprites, but I think outside of like possible small resizing, I don't think that really happens.
Yeah, ideally it wouldn't happen. It's possible that I've gone back like just on my own time and made some small modifications to More just like the pose or something, not actually like adding frames, I would say, or anything that would affect the gameplay. Like if it has gameplay ramifications, we probably wouldn't do it without consulting the rest of the team. But yeah, we try not to go back and redo work whenever possible. Honestly, because you could do that endlessly, right? Like, I'm sure all of us feel like we could, given a little bit more time to perfect certain things, it would be even better. But we need to get the game done at some point, and so if we all did that all the time, it would never get done, and you'd never get to play it. So we've got to have a little bit of discipline with stuff like that. All right. It's good enough for now. Oh, that was you, Eric? I didn't even realize that was your question. Let me actually just read it in full to make sure that I answered it fully. Yeah. So sometimes there are gameplay tweaks that we need to make too. That actually probably happens more than just, us wanting to change the art or me feeling like I want to go back and revise the art that I submitted. Often we do come up with gameplay reasons to make edits to something. We actually just did last week. Like, there was an enemy that was considered done, and once it got implemented in game, we realized the size was just a little too tall for the way that our height management system worked. And so we went in and I shrunk the enemy a little bit, and now it's better. So that does happen fairly regularly, I would say. Okay, time for a new angle. I think I'm done with this one for now. I spent too much time on it. I guess we can do the upward facing. And we're closing in on, it's almost 2:00. So we usually run these for about 2 hours. So if anyone has any questions in these last few minutes, please ask away, and we will try and answer as many as we can.
Speed run.
Cisco wanted to know what's Mina's favorite summer snack.
Haven't we answered that before? We answered her favorite summer drink, right? It was like peach tea.
Yes.
Favorite summer snack.
I said iced tea and biscuits.
Okay, biscuits. Would that be like a digestif?
I don't know. Something English. Like, if you picture English biscuits, that.
Okay.
So maybe cookies, yeah.
I'm trying to think.
My favorite.
I think it's something with cucumbers.
Oh yeah. Cucumbers are delicious on their own, but you could also put them in the peach tea.
Whoa.
When was the blender invented?
Hold on, let me use my vast of knowledge.
I was gonna say you could make like a smoothie.
Probably around the same time as the noggin.
No, wrong.
I bet it was in like the 70s.
1922.
Wow.
Wait, you
Way
think about the 70s? Like the 1700s?
No.
Like 1970?
Yes.
Yeah, actually,
I've never seen anybody drink a smoothie. Like, I can't picture
Before
anyone
the
drinking a
70s.
smoothie earlier than the 1970s.
That's so funny. Yeah, no, I think they used it for other things. I don't know, mixed drinks. I feel like that was like a 1940s thing. But yeah, it was 1922, which makes sense because Prohibition hadn't happened yet. Or it did happen. I'm bad with history. The first blender costed
$29.75, which is like really expensive for 1937.
Yeah, in 20s dollars, is that like $200?
Probably.
Probably. Let's find out. Only the rich people could make smoothies.
Celia, you're bringing the facts.
It's always funny to me to think about how people nowadays complain about how expensive video games are, or at least like AAA games. And when a lot of companies made the shift to $70 for a title instead of $60, which was the norm for a while, everyone was like, $70, that's crazy. But when I was a kid, I remember like all games were like $70 was cheap for a new game. I remember there were games that were like $100, like on
Hey
Nintendo.
Pikachu was $89.
$89.
Yeah, that was their
Damn.
MSRP.
That's crazy.
And it was freaking Hey You Pikachu. The game didn't even work.
Wait, is that the one that came with like
microphone?
a toy? Okay, so it came with some hardware. That's like
Yeah, but it didn't even work. Someone kind of tried to like check the clarity of that mic that you're using, and like no wonder Pikachu couldn't hear you because the quality was horrible.
it was terrible. Wow.
Also, I bought myself some time, but in $29.79 in 1937 is equivalent to $626.
Whoa.
That blender cost more than the PS5.
Whoa.
Just wanted to share that
Smoothie
information.
or PS5? It's
Yep.
real tough decision making there.
What's
Okay.
up, Waz?
What would you prefer, a PS5 or a blender?
But it's
if you
like
lived
the
in
first
1937.
It's like the first blender ever invented.
Yeah, like none of your friends have it.
PS5.
Well, boring.
You guys missed some questions.
Oh,
Oh,
did
really?
we?
Wait, let me turn your volume up,
Blenders
Waz.
like idiots. I mean, like beautiful people.
I don't think we missed any questions.
No, I don't think so.
What would you say
But
is the most
I
important
just
thing to think about when creating sprites? Against that one.
The most important thing,
Yeah.
probably the silhouette.
What's a silhouette?
What's a silhouette? The silhouette is okay. The most important thing that I think about, at least, I don't know, Waz, you might have a different answer, but the silhouette
This is Sandy show.
is this, right? So if I'm making something called a bad rat, and this looks at least a little bit like it could be recognized instantly as a rat, then I think I've done my job. And maybe it doesn't, maybe it just kind of looks like a blob, but at least knowing that it's got like ears here, and you know, it's kind of like it's got a squat shape, and it's got this little tail sticking out there, I feel like this silhouette is fairly successful. Because you're working in such a small resolution, the silhouette is even more important than if you are making really large sprites or illustrations, I would say. I mean, it's important there too, but here it's even more important because representation and implication are like all we have to work with, right? It's like, again, you know, making a hand look like a hand with just a couple of pixels is a tough job. So that would be my answer, is silhouette.
Yeah, I agree.
Cool.
100%.
Yeah.
But yeah, Bridget's right. All the other questions were about like bell peppers.
Yeah, they were all about vegetables. Why do you
And
get to
soup
yell at
goop,
me?
and like- I wasn't yelling.
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
It was. Remember when you were yelling at us? That was really
I
cool.
only yell.
Yeah.
Here,
One volume.
okay. Darktone was asking, from all the trinkets that have been shown, do you have a favorite? I think Spider Buddy's pretty cute, like the friendly orb
Yeah.
weaving
I
spider.
like Spider Buddy.
Yeah, it's a spider that like if
has
you,
the hustle bustle been shown?
Or
Or the bustle of hustle or whatever
I
it's
don't
called?
know. The Bellows Bustle?
Yeah.
It's called the bellows bustle?
Yeah.
I like Hustle Bustle better.
Hustle Bustle is pretty good. It's called Bellows Bustle because it currently has a bellows attached to it, which is where you get your boost of like wind from.
It's like a little fart.
Huh?
Like a little fart.
The little fart, yeah. Yeah, I actually have an idea for an update to that makes it look a little less farty, but I haven't been able to do it yet.
There's another couple of questions from Hyas and Cisco Ragland.
Shoot.
Okay, so Hyas is asking, it's kind of a larger question. How do you prepare a sprite sheet? Do you have like a max size per sprite?
We actually don't use sprite sheets, believe it or not.
Yeah, sprite sheets are stupid. Don't use
I
sprite
hate
sheets.
them.
Ugh, so
They
gross.
are terrible.
Yeah, they're saying that like, so they say I always have the problem that the number of sprite animations or tiles in a tile set grow over time, and then their sprite sheet
Yes.
gets really messy.
Exactly. That's like one of the big problems with sprite sheets is that you can't like insert animations or things like that, right? Or you can't have like a really long animation without it like messing with the order. If every animation was 4 frames exactly and that never changed, then sprite sheets might be okay. But even then, they're kind of like a pain in the butt.
Yeah, I can show
we have
you
a program that you want to show them Cutter?
Oh yeah, I can try and show Cutter after this. This is the only sprite sheet we use. Actually, that's not true. We do use sprite sheets for environments, for tile sets.
Oh, that's a different thing though. That's like, yeah.
I know it's
a
not
concept.
animation, right? But we do have to put these together, and like
Yeah.
for environments, we do put together things like this, and we try and keep them consistent. So when we're working in tiled, which is what we use to put our levels together, it's easy for the level designers to know, you know, the ground tile is going to be at the top left, and then the upper wall tile is going to be like right below that. So that we keep that consistent throughout all of
Yeah,
our
this is
sheets.
like a property. Oh, okay, there you go. I'm seeing it now, like a minute later.
Oh yeah, sorry.
There you go. You're good.
But yep.
Yeah, so that's like a tile sheet, but sprite sheets are where they are, for those of you that don't know, are like animations laid out in a grid. So like you just load in the single image into the engine, and then it assigns the position of the what's displaying on the fly to create the illusion of animation. But that's really cumbersome to set up and work with. So we have a program that does that for us, so that we are working with animated sprites the whole time, and then it cuts it up, stores the small bits of the animation we need, and it stores the offsets for where they should be, and then we just load that. So if you ever see like a sprite rip of Shovel Knight, and like on Sprite as resource, there might be some sprite rips where they look like they're sprite sheets. Those are taken from the output of our tools, and we never actually have to interact with those directly.
Yeah, check this out.
Cutter's
So
awesome.
rather than using, or I'll even just get the walk cycle out. Rather than using sprite sheets, we have all of our sprites in what we call a cutter file. It's a proprietary file format for this software that we use in-house, and we can set the delay frame rate for each frame. So right now these are all set to a delay of 9 for Mina to walk at that speed, but you know, I can edit them on the fly too. You know, if I just make every other frame a little bit slower and she's doing like a weird jaunt, and if I click save on this is how she will walk in game. So on the fly, we can edit all of our animations and add things like hitboxes. Like it might be hard to see, but I just made this defense collision visible. So if I edit this defense collision for Mina, now she'll, like if I do this and hit save, now she will take damage even if she gets touched like way off to the side here. So we have a lot of
Sandy would never commit that, though.
yeah. Like, I'm gonna do it. Or like the world collision, like you can see here, this is what determines how Mina interacts with her environment. So she doesn't actually have, believe it or not, a full 16 pixels of collision. She can, and this is so we can have her like in-game jut up against a wall, and her head like overlaps the wall a little bit without just the very tippy top of her head bumping up against it, which would look a little bit weird. So this allows her to overlap a little bit so it looks like she's standing in 3D space. So this tool allows us a lot of utility and control over all the animations in the game. It's pretty cool.
We had one more question from Cisco Ragland. How do you come up with the different shadow shapes for the different poses? And they meant like the shadow physically on the ground, like underneath the sprite.
Yeah, this one. Well, so our standard, and we made this the standard when we created Mina sprite, looks something a little bit like this. It's about 3 pixels tall. This is what Mina's shadow looks like, more or less. So for another character, I try and do pretty much the same thing, just extend it a little bit, depending on if the character is obviously like a little bit larger, takes up more space, it's gonna have a bigger shadow. If it turns like this at an angle where its feet are offset, I'm going to offset the shadow too, so it makes it even more clear that the character is taking up an angled sort of amount of space like that. It just helps sell the perspective. But yeah, it's not nothing.
It's a different color. It's not black.
Yeah, that is a good question, Waz. The reason it's a different color is because our game engine is able to pick up this purple color as it's technically an out of palette color. So off to the side you can see this is the palette, this is our color palette. These 2 colors up on the top left are out of palette, so they are not included in any of our strings of colors that the game registers and assigns to all the art in game. So this gray color is actually a transparent color that we use specifically in promotion. So I can click this guess button in the layer and it will automatically fill with transparency. And then I can save this out as a sprite because we do need a transparent background for all of our exported sprites. And then this purple color gets turned into black, this black here, in engine. The reason that it's separate and the reason that I don't just do this and export the sprites that way is because when a character gets hit or their palette flashes or changes in any way, we don't want the shadow to flash or change palette as well because it obscures the silhouette of the sprite if that happens, right? Like this looks kind of weird and blobby, but that, if it changes color or needs to flash, you can still see a delineation of where the feet are, right, where the legs are. So it's there might be a little more nuance to it. Like we use this for a lot of different things in game. We use it in addition for simulated depth. We have like isometric tiles or properties that we can apply to some of our tiles, so you can walk behind certain objects or under certain objects and you'll walk over the shadow instead of like overlapping it, or we can change the color of the shadow on the fly. There are a lot of reasons, but anyway, this is our shadow.
Yeah, by treating it like a different color, it lets the engine like see it, and so the engine can access it and change properties with it and interact with it differently than if it was just black pixels on the screen. Right.
Yep. Yeah. It lets the engine read it in a different way. Yeah. Anthony asks, when animating a sprite for a game like this, how many frames of animation would you say is the ideal number to aim for? It completely depends on the needs of the sprite, or the needs of the enemy in this case. So looking at this game design document, part of our process is after the design team writes up all of the requirements, like the attacks and all the type of behavior it has, we put together an asset list at the bottom. And so we know that in order to fulfill the needs of this design, we need an idle, which includes up, right, and down facing. We need a walk with those 3 directions as well. projectile anticipation, a throw, a jump, which includes 3 different directions, this burrow mound, which I showed, and the projectile. So it needs a little model, and then it needs to spin around and break. So in order to make a bad rat, we need this handful of animations, like 6 different states, and each state has at least 3 directions. This one has 5. So it's a lot. A lot goes into it. But you can also see that because we're working at such a small resolution, I was able to get a pretty good amount done in a short amount of time. And more complex characters take a lot more. I mean, I showed you Mina's cutter file that had all of her, her sprites in it, is hundreds of animations. So yeah, it's a lot, but it really depends on the needs of the design.
And Sandy, there's a couple enemies like the gremlin guy and like Corvidin that have like interesting long idles or like just other interesting like flurry animations too. So like it seems like you also can just add stuff for fun.
Yep, true. Yeah, let's see if I have any examples. Yeah, like this guy. He does like a little scratch, even though he normally is just standing around like this. But then we do a long idle if he's just, if Mina's not interacting with him for X amount of time. And then sometimes we'll have an enemy like this guy that is literally just 2 frames. This is the entire enemy. He has no other animations because all he's required to do is move up and down on a spline. So he just, well, I guess I can't really show that very well, but he just does this burp, 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 burp. And so, yeah, 1 and done, or 2 and done, I guess, 2 frames. So hopefully that answers your question. This guy's clearly gonna have a lot going on. Did you see this, Waz?
Which one?
This
Too much mind.
this weird dogapede.
I haven't seen anything of it yet. Still a hairball.
It's like that caterpillar from Mario, and it's a segmented wolf.
Yeah.
Wolfipede.
Yeah, I've seen this.
Wolfipede.
He's cool. He's my favorite.
Yeah, it's Alex's favorite. But yeah, okay.
You seen my centipede illustration?
Centipede?
I'll show you later.
Yeah, you've got to post it in
It's a
chat.
bunch of horses. It's not finished yet.
Gross. Gross, but very intriguing.
I'll post it in chat
Yes, please.
right now.
But yeah, that's oh my god. That's epic.
Still work in progress.
Whoa, cool. Why isn't this in
mid
Mina?
centipede leap.
What? That's so cool. The
my
muscle
gosh.
definition is really well rendered.
Well, thank you.
Wait, I missed like the ending, the legs on the far right. I missed that it goes all the way back there.
Yeah, it's so
That's
long.
where the saddle goes.
Ew. It's like a roller coaster. How many people can ride this thing?
Just one.
What? It could support like 50 people.
Wait, in the background are those other
Yes.
long horses like grazing?
Yes.
I just put it up.
I see your effort was.
Thank you. I'll finish it.
I put it up on the stream so everyone can admire your beautiful horse musculature.
Okay.
All right, that's a perfect way to end the stream. Thanks, Waz. All right, everybody. Well, hopefully that was fun. Sorry, it's been a while since we did an art stream, but thanks for joining. And we'll get back to work, and I'll try and finish up this bad rat.
Yay, go team.
Yeah. All right.
Is there a
sign off, or do you want me to do the sign off?
I have an end slate, so I'll just cut to that.
Yeah.
Also today is the last day to pre-order Mina shirts.
Oh yeah, Mina
Yes.
shirts, the glow in the dark
Good job,
one.
Bridget.
Thank you.
Yeah, they glow in the dark. They're awesome. They're $25 plus shipping. I don't know if we're going to put them up back for sale again. Maybe, I don't know. So don't miss out if you want one.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Do you have a link that I can
Here.
pop open?
Yes.
It's too late. I'm
Can't
pasting
find
it.
right now.
It's too late.
There we go.
Yeah. Our lovely
Yeah,
Kevin model.
check it out. This one in particular is so cool.
Yeah, it's really rad.
Look at that design.
Okay.
There's Thorn. There's the floating virus enemy from Bone Beach.
This is Midden.
Miners. Yeah, there's Midden over there next to Mina, just eyeing him all creepily,
Sniffing, getting
and
some whiffs.
stinkily. But yeah, I wear this shirt all the time. I love it. It's Morgan's illustration. All right. Well, thanks everybody.
Good streaming.
Thanks for hanging out. Good stream. See you all next time.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.